Yeah, it's just a quick video showing how I do the embankment on a railway and just general scenics, doing that sort of stuff, which you can see looks pretty effective. Doesn't cost a lot of money to do that at all, so it's basically leftover kingspan from the attic, which obviously is all that thermal insulation, and basically you can get this from your builder's yard. It don't cost that much. You trim it to shape, dead easy to cut, peel off the silver backing, which is on one side, and it looks like that obviously. Get that sort of effect. And then what I do then is run a wire brush over the top. Just drag a wire brush over the top until you get the desired effect. And then just 2 coats of Woodland Scenics transparent paint goes over the top, and then for the edging I get a rock effect, or you can do many different effects, but I'm going to do a rock effect on the edging to blend in with the section where it's going to meet up with, which is there. So you know, it's very easy to do. So on the next clip I'll show how to do the rock effect, and just to get an idea, obviously you can see I've done all that embankment there, and it looks alright. And that's cost probably about, I don't know, £10–15 to do all that, with the decorators filler and the paint, etc. So say about 25 to do all that embankment. So it really is cost effective. And obviously the mountain, I've done exactly the same for doing the mountain. She's got all the trees and rock effects and stuff. Yeah, oh by the way, this is how I do it. I just do a comb effect, dragging the wire brush that way across. Do it as much as you want until you get the desired effect, and you can see it sort of, yeah, that sort of effect. So when it's overcoated with the paint, it looks quite good. Looks like grass, rough grass ground. And then you can add to that if you wanted to, using the static grass, if you wanted to go that far. Yeah, so I've got my piece of kingspan. I've cut it to the shape I want. I've done the rough effects across the top. So now I'm going to apply the rock effect to the edge. To do that, I'm using standard decorators filler, which we're going to mix in a minute, which is from Wix's, about £1.70 a box, which is like mega cheap. And I'm going to be using, for the rock effects, I'm going to be using, again, Wix, the Wix tester pots, and it's like a slate colour, which it says that's the actual name for it as well, slate. And I'm using a cucumber, which is going to be for a rock effect, which I'll show you in a minute. So them two probably cost £1 or so. And for the top overcoat on the greener areas, I'm using green undercoat from Woodland Scenics, earth colours. Okay, so I'll show that now. Yeah, so I've got my piece of kingspan. I've mixed up the filler, and as you can see, I'm just sculpturing it on by hand with your glove, and you get a nice sort of a layered rock effect. There's many different ways you can do this. As you can see, I'm just sculpturing it on by hand, and then just play around with it the way you want, and it'll just actually look, bring it up as far as you want, play around with it. So there we go, I'm sculpturing it on with my fingers at an angle, because I want it to match in with the existing stuff. So that's basically how I apply the filler. No tools, just all done by hand. You can see when it dries, it'll look like a piece of rock when you put the base coat on, etc. So that's that section. Yeah, so I've done the edge. I'm happy with the way it is, and the contours. it doesn't look brilliant at the moment. When it's got the paint on and everything, it'll look quite good. So the next stage is the paint on the edge, but I'll have to wait for that to dry first, so I've got to leave it for a few hours. Okay. Yeah, so I've actually left this to dry overnight, the filler, because I put quite a lot on. So next stage is I'm putting on a base coat, which is like this is for the rock effects, like a flat, chalky sort of slate colour. That's how my tester pot, so I'll just go across this area here and just block all that out in the base colour. So that's the next stage. So on the next stage, as you can see, I'm giving it the rock effect, and I've just painted that over, coated a dark grey paint with a lighter colour. I'm using a colour called Cucumber. It's it's an off-white, so you put a very small amount of paint into your tub or whatever and just thin that down, so it's like a sort of consistency of milk, something like that, a bit thicker than milk. And what I do, dip my brush in your paint, and then brush your brush across some masking paper like that, so there's hardly any paint on the brush at all. And what you do then is you just rub it across the areas you want to create that sort of rock effect on, like that. And you can see, just drag it across. You can play around with it in different ways. And when it dries, you get like a rock effect like that. And that's it. A dead simple way, I think, of creating rock effect. So that's how we do it. So the next stage is to obviously finish that area off, and that's it, just leave that, and then overcoat the top with the green. So I'll show that next. Yeah, so that's it. I've just that's my effect now. I'm happy with that now. So I'll move on to the next stage now, which is my green. Yeah, so I'm putting on the green, a Woodland Scenics green earth colour. So all I'm doing there is just basically just put it on like you're putting on tomato sauce or whatever. Just drip it into roughly where you want it to go, and then just brush it in, basically. Brush that in, work it in. Just work it in. And when it dries, give it another coat. Well, that's what I do anyway, just to, because it's a semi-translucent colour. When it dries, it's sort of, it's not complete. It doesn't completely block out the base colour or the base material, so it does go a lot lighter when it dries. So what I'm going to do now is work in the edges and then finish off that section. Now, as you can see, I've worked it to the edges. It doesn't have to be brilliant, it doesn't have to be dead neat, because there's obviously simulating grass going over the top. You can add grass to this and customise this section anyway after you've done it if you wanted to. If you use static grass and flocks if you wanted to enhance the looks when it's done. So I'll just finish off that section. Yeah, so you can see the piece has been installed there. It's still drying out, so it takes ages to dry to that sort of colour. On Kingspan, when you're putting the raw paint on, if it's water based, it does take a very long time to dry out to the shade that I'm requiring, so I'm going to have to leave it for quite a while. I've glued it in place with Copydex, and I've used a Red Devil filler, which is one time fill in the gap there, and then I'll just blend it in. So that's that piece installed into that area. Yeah, as you can see, I've just blended in the filler on the gaps. It's not fantastic, but it'll do for what I want. I'll be adding flocks to lighten up the grass because it's dried slightly darker. It would have been a different batch. But that's how it looks. Okay, oh, the wife's just come up.
Go away.